Chapter 30, Doubt. The forest was quiet at this hour. Salazar crouched low behind a bank of shrubbery, wand in hand, eyes fixed on a wild boar moving through the undergrowth about 30 feet ahead. The boar lifted its head, scenting the air, holding its position completely still. Salazar whispered, "Not a spell, something older than that." A low hissing breath that carried into the trees and disappeared. The boar shuffled its feet. Then a large snake emerged from the undergrowth and closed around its back 2 legs, rendering it immobile in an instant. The boar scooted desperately forward on its front legs until a second snake wrapped quickly around its neck, and the struggling stopped completely. The snakes released the dead boar and moved on without ceremony. Salazar rose and smiled at his catch. He waved his wand and the boar lifted several feet off the ground. Snap, he spun. The boar dropped back to the earth. His wand was up before he finished turning. "Who goes there? Show yourself." A large, pale man with gray hair and a healthy build stepped out from behind a bush with both hands raised. He was wandless. "I am merely a traveler passing through." His voice was raspy, unhurried. "I saw what you did with that boar, and I had to see closer. My apologies for sneaking about." Salazar held his position for a moment. Wandless. He lowered his wand slightly. "We do not seek trouble here. If you seek to pass through, you may." The man bowed and began to walk. Then he stopped and turned back. "I do have a question, if I may." "Of course. I am trying to find a man." The traveler paused as if choosing his words carefully. "A dark wizard who calls himself Merwin the Malicious." Salazar kept his face completely still. His mind went directly to his friend. "Merwin is responsible for countless murders," the man continued. "Muggles and wizards alike. He wants every muggle everywhere exterminated." He looked away into the trees. "He told us he had a way to rid the world of the muggle problem. He murdered them all with one curse. Every man, every woman, every child." His voice had changed. The rasp was still there, but underneath it something raw. "They were my friends. He had no right. Muggle or not, they were people. Hundreds of people." The man couldn't continue. Salazar found he couldn't speak either. His mind was racing. Is this true? How could it be? But even as he thought it, he felt the answer settling into place. Yes, it adds up. Yes, it fits with everything Merwin believes. Yes, this is how he plans to end the Muggle threat, by ending all of them. He decided he needed to find out for himself. The man could be a bounty hunter, hired by Muggles to eliminate a threat. He told the traveler politely that he had not seen or heard of that name. The man continued on his way. Salazar returned to the village and left the boar at the butcher shop. At the market fountain, he saw them, 3 figures waiting. 2 well-dressed witches and 1 large bearded man. He felt something loosen in his chest at the sight of them. He goes to the fountain. "You got my owl and came." He approached with his arms open. The 4 of them, recent acquaintances, or perhaps already something closer than that, greeted each other with smiles and the kind of visible mutual admiration that forms quickly between people who recognize something in each other. Then Salazar's face changed, and they all saw it. They went to the tavern. Salazar told them everything. Merwin and his vague plans to rid the village of the Muggle problem. Then the stranger in the woods that morning, and what he had said. Godric reacted first, and immediately. "It is the utmost cowardice to attack Muggles with magic. Your friend sounds dishonorable." He said it without hesitation, the way he said everything. Helga leaned forward. "Has anyone tried simply talking to the giants? To find out what they actually want?" Rowena had been quiet. When she spoke, it was with a measured carefulness that made the others listen. "Merlin teaches that witches and wizards are the shepherds of Muggles." She looked at each of them in turn. "We have been gifted the ability and the responsibility to assist them and to care for them. It is the natural order of things." The other 3 nodded. This was known. Dark magic has disillusioned the Muggles into believing we are now their enemy. That is not their fault. That is ours. She looked directly at Salazar. "I am afraid that if the traveler is telling the truth, your friend has been making all of his decisions with a severely damaged soul." Salazar broke eye contact and looked down at the table. Rowena continued quietly. "This makes him dangerous to all of us, not just to the Muggles." The tavern fire crackled. Nobody spoke for a long moment. It was now 6:30 on Monday evening, and the office had emptied out around them without any of them noticing. Hermione looked up from her files and blinked at the clock. Oh no, it's 6:30. Harry and Marin had stayed late to help her go through what remained of the records on the witch, cross-referencing sightings, descriptions, anything that might give them a name or a pattern. They had found nothing useful. "Ronald said he and George made dinner," Hermione said, already stacking papers. "Muggle-style barbecue. I think he meant Texas-style." She said it the way she said most things Ron did, with a mixture of affection and mild bewilderment. Harry gave a slight chuckle, imagining Ron getting genuinely emotional about spare ribs. "Sounds good for tonight." His mind was still half on the files. "Let's go surprise him," Hermione said, pulling on her coat. "Harry, can you get Ginny to meet us at the shop in half an hour?" Harry looked to Marin, who gave an agreeable nod. They gathered their things and left. The apartment above Weasley's Wizard Wheezes was modest but warm. Ron and Hermione had been living there since the wedding, while they figured out where to build properly, and the place had quietly become a home in the meantime. Muggle touches alongside the unmistakable Weasley Burrow quality, a sitting area and dining table separated from the kitchen by a low breakfast counter. Harry noticed it every time he came. It suited them completely. Marin loved it. She didn't say so. She was staying only a few blocks away at the Leaky Cauldron until she found somewhere more permanent, and she had told Harry she was becoming closer friends with Hannah Abbott, who worked there. She looked around the apartment with the expression of someone filing it away privately. George and Ron had followed the Muggle barbecue directions with unexpected precision. The baby back pork ribs arrived at the table golden and falling off the bone, and Ron declared them with complete sincerity to be the best thing I've ever eaten, in a voice that suggested he had been waiting his whole life to say it. George agreed. Hermione looked quietly pleased. Ginny caught Harry's eye across the table, and they said nothing. Dinner wound down. Harry was almost ready to go when he noticed Marin at the breakfast nook, flipping quietly through a box of Hermione's files that had come home with her. He was about to say something when Marin stopped. She was holding a page torn from a book, an old lithograph print of a man's face. The writing beneath the image read Merwin the Malicious. She looked at the face, then at the eyes. Something in them caught her, a recognition she couldn't place, like a word she had always known and suddenly couldn't remember the meaning of. Then the apartment was gone. She was standing in front of a large man. Tall, broad-shouldered, a long bushy beard, robes adorned with pieces of armor at the forearms and shoulder. He frowned at her. There was no malice in it, something worse than malice. Certainty. He lifted a large silver sword encrusted with a red jewel, and she could see writing etched into the blade, but she couldn't read it before the blade was through her chest. She felt the warmth of her own blood moving down her back where it exited. Marin screamed. She opened her eyes and scrambled upright. She was on Ron's sitting room couch with a blanket over her that in the first panicked second felt like a net. She pulled it off. Harry was sitting at the other end of the couch, holding a glass of water,